You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cederstrom in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth. And Power Talks. Welcome to Power Talks this morning. I'm Beth Ann, and say good morning to Melody, my host and partner in crime, or whatever it is.
Don't say crime. Don't say
Not
crime.
There's enough of that. But truth is a crime these days.
It certainly is.
Did you have a wonderful Thanksgiving?
Yes, I did. And yourself?
You did. I gained 5 pounds. I'm working on it now.
Well, I'm done with turkey talk. No more turkey talk. I'm done. I miss.
Now, you had your 6 points on changing the subject. Did you use those?
No, I didn't. I chose the one. I chose the one to be quiet. Just zip it. Just zip it. Just zip it.
But I know nothing.
I know nothing.
Well, I had a nice time. It wasn't the entire family. We went down to where my son and his wife live in southern part of Missouri. And, of course, she's expecting due the 5th of December, the 5th of December. And she was carrying this baby so high, she said she couldn't hardly breathe, and it has dropped, and now she can't hardly walk. And my son was saying, we're really going to miss the waddle, because he loves to watch her waddle. I said, you have my permission to slap him. It's fine. But, yeah, she's ready to have this over with and out. She's ready for somebody else to carry this baby a little while.
Well, there was a lot of news about Black Friday, and there was a lot of financial news about everybody basically was going online to do a lot of shopping online that the stores didn't have. Although I talked about some people were sleeping overnight at Best Buy and so forth, so they could save $300 on a television and so forth. But the word out is there's probably been more purchasing online than the actually retail stores. We'll find a little bit more about that later on. But there's an alarming number of shoppers that are still paying off debt from last Christmas.
Yeah.
And this year, the Americans are planning to spend $660 on average. And this is according from new data from Nerds Wallet's 2017 Consumer Holiday Shopping Report. They analyzed the behavior trends of more than 2,000 Americans that are aged 18 and over. And we all know that debt is a growing problem, and of course holiday debt is included in that. And about 27% of shoppers said they overspent in 2016, while 27% admit to not making a budget at all. And during the 2016 season, baby boomers proved most likely, always blame the baby boomers.
Always come back to the baby.
Proved most likely to take on debt to finance their purchases, with 63% of respondents copying to the habit. Other generations took on debt as well, including 58% of Gen Xers and 40% of millennials. But the alarming part is this pattern, that Americans, they're still carrying last year's debt. We're talking about $660, $700 if they overspent $1,000. That they're still carrying and paying interest on that $1,000 that they overspent with. Millennials are the worst culprits, of course, because they're still using their parents' credit cards. I should be nice. 24% still haven't paid off credit card debt, and while 16% of Gen Xers haven't, and only 8% of boomers haven't.
And of course, today is what they call Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday. I
already got a few notifications, one from Old Navy and some others that having their cyber sales 50% off. I know that my kids do a lot of online ordering. In fact, one Christmas they all waited till the last minute, and there was about 4 of them that gave pictures of what they'd ordered and wrapped it up in a box to whoever they had, that they draw names, whoever the name they had, and it's still a running joke about all of them. This is what you're going to receive in the mail in another week. But I know that they do a lot of online ordering, and you and I, we talked about this before. We like to actually have the shopping experience. We like to walk and shop and, stop and enjoy the ambiance of the mall or wherever it is we are, the mom and pop shops that they're getting more rare, but they are the most fun when you go into those shops. And
I've said for a long time, there's always this discussion about retailers closing and so forth because of the competition of online, which is true. However, Walmart is deciding to focus on attracting people to their stores. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of these retail stores. I mean, would people actually change their purchasing habits from online to actually go into the store if they were cleaner, if they were neater, if they had enough people, but then you have to hire people to wait on you instead of having to stand in line looking for someone if you have a question or anything like that? If they made the stores a little more attractive, I mean, heck, they're Christmas displays anymore. I mean, you can't even find them in the department stores anymore. So if they made things a little more attractive, a little more to where you'd want to go, and I think it would make a difference, and perhaps that's what Walmart is going to be doing. I'm not sure how much more attractive they can make Walmarts to entice people to come in, except for discounts. They still have the, ability to, with their size and everything, to, add the discounts to where they can be competitive to online stores and buying and so forth. So, but you go to some of these malls anymore, and it's just like, I don't even want to go in there. They're dirty.
Right.
People spit.
I worked here in California. It no longer exists, but I worked at a local Hallmark store. And I miss that here in town, because when I worked in there, a lot of the people would come in, and you don't even do that anymore. But when weddings were coming in, they'd look at the crystal that you had on, or that you had in stock, or whatever, and other things. You might have albums, like picture albums, or whatever. There was all kinds of things to purchase besides cards. But when it was the holidays, we had a big open house. And we had apple cider and cookies, and made a big deal of it, and welcomed everybody in. We were, where during the week we all just kind of switched on who was working when. Well, we were all in there then. Everybody was there. There was still only one cash register. It's a small town, but everybody was there, and we were waiting on everyone and helping them, and it was a great experience. They bring the kids in, and if you you've seen a lot of these places, they pass out balloons, or they give out something for the kids, the candy canes or whatever. They'd have Santa come in at a certain time. Those are the things that will draw people in. If you give them something free, give them a cookie, give them some apple cider or some coffee or hot chocolate, or, of course, you got to be careful. It can't be too hot. Those kind of things. And I remember it was a blast. It wore you out. You were dead dog tired by the end of the day. But it was a lot of fun to see everybody come in and get started on their Christmas shopping, or buy their cards for the year, to get their Christmas cards out. I don't even know. I haven't had the time to send out Christmas cards since I started this show. So my family, it's kind of a running joke. Where's your cards? Well, I bought them. But I haven't been able to get them out.
I think also, too, that we have received, that was one thing we did, is we exported our inflation by buying the cheap China trinkets that was imported into this country. That was one way and I think, too, sometimes you don't go to the store because everything is so cheap anymore. You're paying, these outrageous prices. And even though they might discount it by 1%, the quality, even the clothes, the quality that you buy, and even some of your higher-end stores, the quality, it's just not there, because it is all imported from Vietnam, from China, and that's why things don't fit like they used to. You could, if you wore a size 10, by gosh, it was...
A size 10.
Not
a wand.
Same way with the shoes. My shoe size didn't range from 7.5 to 10. And I think this globalism plays a part in that. And so I think, too, these retail stores, they lost the quality, and I think sometimes we go online to see if we can find higher quality things, but it isn't. It's still the same cheap stuff from China. unless you really go into the really high dollar stores, then who can afford that except the billionaires of the world? They get the quality stuff, while people like us just get the cheap trinkets from China. And so it will be interesting too, because as China, we've been exporting our inflation. Well, China is beginning to see inflation, so it's going to come back to us. But I came across this article, and I thought it was interesting. By the end of this year, there's going to be almost 2 million Chinese coal and steel workers that are going to lose their jobs. They're going to be falling victim of the government's shift to cleaner industries and a shutdown of small enterprises. And to put that in perspective, the two industries employ just 192,000 workers in the U.S. So why does this matter? Well, Chinese is focused on social stability. The party always, which is a communist party, always looked to avoid any outbreak of disconnect. That's your communism for you. That could threaten political calm. Now everybody says, well, they have the young people over there. They're going to change government and and so forth. They want to become more capitalist and so forth. But you also have to remember that the younger generation over there also have had it pretty nice these past 15, 20 years, 25 years. They've seen their economy. They've been beneficiaries of the wealth that has come into China. And so are they going to disrupt that? Just because their, political views might change? I don't think so. But I think, and particularly since now that the President Xi has been basically written into the Constitution and so forth, you're not going to see their government change. You might see the way they do business change a little bit. And I think they'll be looking, and I think they will be looking to export some of these manufacturing things out of the country, because they do need to improve on their smog and pollution and so forth. And environmentally, they really do need to. I mean, when their smog reaches our west coast, that's a problem. Right. That's a main problem. So, if we see manufacturing pick up in this country, who's it being picked up by? Is it going to be Chinese? Are we all going to be working? Are they American companies, Chinese companies? I've said for a very long time, your paychecks are going to be signed by, someone with a very ties to China. I mean, our wages and our work is going to, even though the factories are here and we're getting paid by those Chinese companies, it's really going to benefit the government of China, which is communist. So, again, these are things that are changing, but people don't look any deeper. People don't look deeper into the meaning of it all, because people just want jobs. They want to feed their families. They want to, they want to provide for their families. They want to see increases. I talked to a gentleman this morning. He says, Melanie, our dollar just keeps getting worthless and worthless. He says it buys less and less.
Yeah, it does.
And I try to express to people, you hear these big names people on the internet, that do all these newsletters and talk about how silver is going to outdo gold, and it's all about the profits, it's all about the money, and it's all about a certain time when we have a reset. They totally overlook what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Where you're losing purchasing power because our dollar continues to get weaker on a daily basis, which means things become more and more expensive, which means it's harder and harder for everyday people to keep up their standard of living that they're accustomed to. That's why you buy gold and silver.
Wow, you got a commercial in there. You did good. But it's true. It's absolutely true. And I hear music. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. Write that down. Keep it by your phone. 717-300-1218. And you could join Melody and Beth Ann in conversation. And we'll be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually, there is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Yuji. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning. It's 717-300-1218 is the number to call. That's 717-300-1218 to join us in conversation. We were talking about some of the expenses and the inflation, and let's get back on that.
And, you know, we have household debt. I mean, that is surging to all-time high. And so people truly are back to using their credit cards to survive their food, their expenses, their gasoline. Some might even be using their credit card to make their house payments. But, I mean, so we're looking at there's been a huge surge in total U.S. household debt. Now a record $12.96, $13 trillion is a record. And this is the amount of debt. I think it beats the amount of debt that people had back at 2007 and 2008. So there was a credit card binge then, and there's a credit card binge now. And we just have people can't pay off their credit from Christmas from last year. I mean, this country, and now we have a government. Let's go to the government's debt. We have government that has debt that they can't pay. And we have, you know, they're going to be doing everything possible. You know, the tax reform is hanging in a balance. And the thing of it is, they don't have a way to pay for it. That's the problem. And who really benefits from this tax reform? It's not like they were changing. It isn't tax reform. It really is just tax cuts. How are they reforming the taxes? Are we all getting a flat 10% where everybody pays 10%, the most fairest of all? No. I mean, it's where is the tax reform? It's tax cuts. I guess you can say, some of the deductions and that you can and not take would be in reform. But, I mean, they have a big hurdle for that. I can't imagine. And if they don't get it done, you may as well write up, just forget about next year's elections. Which
done.
Yeah.
I have an article a little bit about that, and it's by Randy, is it Levine, Levine? And he said, Mr. President, I'm one of your longest-standing supporters. I respectfully request that you revisit your support for the individual tax reform package. The good news is there is still time to fix it. I guess it's a fixer-upper. It's still time to fix it and make it better and more efficient. But as Yogi Berra used to say, Mr. President, it's getting late early. And he goes on and he talks about all the things that President Donald Trump ran on and why he was elected. And he does mention in here that the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. He doesn't word it like that. But they have been just as big obstructors trying to make his presidency fail as the Democrats have been. And the American people should be angry about this. We elected him to do a certain thing. And now we're considered everything bad in this nation because we want to make it better. So I guess it's a fixer-upper, but it has gone downhill since it started. They keep bragging about how great it's going to be when they get done with it, but
and that's the problem. I mean, if it was a decent, and it's really true. I mean, and I get that Trump's hands are tied to some degree. But, I mean, these Republicans, my gosh, if they would come out with something decent, but it's difficult to come out with something decent when there's no money to pay for it. And that's the problem. So all they're doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul just to create something that they can pass, to make it like there's something that they've actually have done, that they're supporting the promises during all the various Republican campaigns and so forth. Well, we've done this and so forth. They just want to get something passed to make it look like they're actually working. But what are they truly accomplishing? They're not accomplishing anything in this tax reform bill. They're not really, look what they've done to, the health care bill, the Affordable Care Act. They couldn't even defund it. How difficult would that be? It's they just, and you'll hear him say, we just need to get this done. We just need to get this done. It's like, well, you know what? No, you don't. It's too big of a deal. Take the time. Come out with something that actually works, that it can actually be paid for by cuts. Where you can, quit the spending. I saw a report out this morning. I was trying to pull it up. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow. All the waste that is done out of D.C., the money that is just so wasteful.
And they think nothing of it.
And they think nothing of it.
Just like these scandals that have come out in the last few weeks. And we find out $15 million of taxpayers' money has gone to pay off or fight their lawsuits or pay off people to keep them quiet. $15 million. Now, that may not sound like much in the whole big scheme of things, but $15 million to the American people is a whole lot of money. It's people like you and I and those that are listening to us, we have sacrificed, and we go month to month trying to survive, and they think nothing about playing up there in D.C., and I mean playing, and then spending $15 million of your money to fight their lawsuits for their bad behavior. That's just one example. But all these other things where they're throwing out grant money here and grant money there, well, I'm sorry, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. And it just infuriates me that they will not cut anything. There are things they can cut. It may look small compared to the debt we have, but there are things they can cut, and they absolutely refuse to. And when they talk about cutting, now you watch, it's coming up here in a few weeks. They're going to start, they're going to be down on the last the last minute to pass their debt bill or whatever you call that, and they're going to threaten Social Security, Medicare,
Absolutely.
and they're going to threaten the military. It's what they do every single time. They threaten to remove, we won't have money for defense, we won't have money for Medicare, we won't have money for this. They never talk about the other stuff that they spend, like $15 million to fight their sexual harassment lawsuits. They don't talk about that. It's always the same thing.
They don't talk about the $1 billion that went missing in military equipment in Iraq.
Yeah.
And I get. I mean, when you all put it in perspective, you're dealing with how much money does the Defense Department get? Almost $1 trillion, $800 billion, or something like that. So $1 billion. I mean, you could see where it goes missing. I'm just trying to be a little positive here, But on the other hand, what I want
goes through a lot of hands.
What I want to see is if you're missing $1 billion in military equipment, who is responsible? Fire them.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
And don't let it happen again.
And don't let, and let's really find out. And of course we all know that most of that military equipment was probably given to ISIS, but,
or taken by, it's a little bit of.
Yeah, I mean, it was given and, so forth. I mean, just like they spent, how many millions of dollars to train, 2 Syrian soldiers. It's like, okay, it costs $2 million, it was a ridiculous number to train 2 soldiers, from the Syrian rebels, the rebels in Syria. I mean, are you kidding me? Who is responsible for this stuff? If you and I know about it, if we talk about it, I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to find it, but again, they're not going to because government's too big.
We all knew about the Clinton Foundation. We knew what we highly suspect. It's obvious what goes on, and yet they haven't done anything about that. Oh, they're doing a lot of talking right now, but they haven't done anything. No, not anything. And that is national security. That's not just a little bit of fraud. That's national security.
Her servers being in a closet in some place in Colorado.
She wiped it with a cloth.
We bleached it. But yet all they can focus is on Donald Trump and the Russian connection. It's just, and I was telling Beth prior to the program, I watched some news programs over the weekend and so forth, and I do watch a little bit of CNN. I do watch NBC, and I'll tell you what, it turned my stomach. All they talked about was how racist everyone is, the base of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is such a racist. It wasn't just one person. It was program after program. I mean, I would turn it off and go back a couple of hours later, and it was the same thing. How racist we are, how we hate blacks, and the base, we're just all white, and, I mean, it's just like, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. The whole weekend was like that. It was disgusting.
And they have to say it enough that people believe it. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. We've got a caller. Let's go to Joe real quick, because I think he called in a couple of conversations back. Joe, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. And how are y'all?
We're doing good. I like that, y'all. We're doing good.
Yeah, I kind of picked that up when I moved here to Arkansas. I wanted to say something about the business of tax reform, and it seems to me that if our government was really looking out for our interests and really wanted to do good for a country and for the people of this country, what they would concentrate on doing would be growing the tax base so that they could get all the money that the government needs to operate with a smaller tax rate, by taking less percentage of everyone's income, because the tax base, the source from which they were drawing the money, would be bigger. And, of course, the tax base is all the real productive work and industry and activities that people do, agriculture and mining and fishing and logging and manufacturing and everything that produces real tangible wealth. That's the only real tax base. And so what I see as the big problem with this tax business is that our government is just absolutely full of people that think it's much more important to support the industries of China and the agriculture of Mexico and the clothing industries of, I don't know, Bangladesh and Vietnam and all these other countries. It seems like they think that our government is just absolutely full of people that think that their most important business is to support the productive industries of other countries, while ours kind of stagnates and languishes and shrinks. And so they're shrinking our tax base, and at the same time wanting to spend more and more and more all the time, so that they have to, crack the whip on us and push us harder and harder and harder to tax the money out of us to do all the spending that they want. So that's the big problem I see. What the American people ought to demand, I would think, if they wanted to get things right, is grow our own tax base. Bring our productive industry back here, support our own productive industry. The government should have policies to do that, so that we have a big tax base, so that the government can get all the money it needs, with a small tax rate on the people. Do you think that's making sense?
Makes sense to me. I don't know why it doesn't make sense to D.C. Well, I do, but go ahead,
you know
Melody.
what, Joe? It does make sense. I mean, it's just grow the tax base, but the problem is, how big does that tax base have to grow in order to pay our debt? I don't think we can grow the tax base big enough in order to pay the debt. I mean, we're just paying the interest on the debt now as it is. When are we ever going to be able to pay the principal? Anyway, I just think it's too, and so I don't know. I mean, it would certainly, help, but I am a believer that it doesn't really matter what we do. It could help. It would help things, but until we fix our monetary problems, and that's our dollar is going to continue to lose value, things are going to be more expensive. You don't ever see any trickle down happening. It's going to be very difficult, or I don't think you can grow that tax base big enough to pay the debt. It'll help, but the problem is, as long as we don't
somehow we keep on managing to make payments on the debt. It seems like so many economic experts say that I've been hearing all my life, ever since probably the 60s or 70s or something, around then, the people that studied economics and actually had some common sense about economics, they were all saying, the economy is in danger of imminent collapse because our debt is getting so big. And they've been saying that ever since the 70s, and it still hadn't happened. Somehow we keep managing to struggle along and keep up the payments on the debt. And so if we're tax base, and I suppose we could keep doing that, and so somehow we keep managing to do that, and if our tax base was bigger, then it would be even easier to do that. And then also so much of the spending that contributes to the increase of the debt, all the welfare spending and so on like that. If we had a bigger tax base, that would mean we'd have more employment. People would be more self-sufficient, would need less from the government. So the government could cut down on some of this wasteful spending.
The only reason it didn't collapse, because I think they were able to introduce the petrodollar, made the arrangements with the oil, and that was the only thing that sustained them. Every time we went into a major recession, they created new programs that created more debt in order to get us out of these recessions. None of the recessions we've ever had for the past, 30 years, did we ever come out because of good economic policies. It's all been through debt and creating these new programs so the bankers, so Wall Street, continue to get wealthier and wealthier, and yet the American people out there, our dollar becomes worthless, becomes less valuable, and it costs us more and more and more. We got to work harder and harder, but yet they cut our hours because they don't want us to succeed. They don't want us in the standard of living that they have us in. Government will continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger until they fix our monetary policy, and that's, again, stable money, and that's just the way it's going to be. And eventually you have that balloon, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We can't figure out, my God, look how that is stretched, and yet it still doesn't blow up. I mean, it's beyond, but they will print until the cows come home. And with the petrodollar, it comes back to that confidence level. Once these governments no longer have the confidence that America can sustain their debt and pay for their, once that confidence is lost, we're not going to have the money. They won't be buying our debt in order for us to continue to pay the interest. So we are at a point where eventually something's going to give. Something will give. And I think the bigger the debt becomes, and where we are today, it's a little more hard to balance. It's a little more hard to manage. But that isn't the issue. The issue is our currency continues to get weaker, and it makes it harder and harder for people to get ahead. They're just trying to stay ahead.
Well, one thing I've found in life is that once you've made some improvement and you actually see that improvement is possible, then you start to think, maybe further improvement is possible. What else can I do to improve things further? So if we could actually go so far as to, enlarge the tax base in the way that I've been talking about, and people experience an improvement in quality of life in that way, then they might start thinking, hey, things can get better. We can see some improvement. What else can we do to improve things even more? Then they might start to think about how can we, people would bring up the money system, and how can we reform the money system so as to improve things with a better monetary system? Then people would get interested in, hey, yeah, that would improve things too. Let's keep on going. Now that we've improved a little bit, let's keep on going and improve things more. So I advocate improve in whatever way we can, and that will stimulate the realization that improvement is possible and a desire for further improvement.
Well, I love your idea. Don't get me wrong. I love your idea. But the reality is, and then that is, hey, that would be positive. That's all positive. But the reality is you have to have people who want improvement. You have 50% of the people who really don't want improvement. They're happy right where they're at. And that doesn't mean you need them to improve, but you still have government. And you still have this big government. You still have the powers to be, and bring manufacturing back, bring jobs back. That's all great, Well, but if there's issues and problems that I don't think can increase the base as great as we need.
The other side of that coin is if more people are working and we have a better economy in that respect, we should be getting more and more people off of the government dole. There shouldn't be as many people on welfare. There shouldn't be as many people getting food stamps and that kind of thing, subsidies and such from the government. And that would help as well. I mean, it should be something that encompasses a lot of things. But the problem is D.C. doesn't want it fixed. They do not want to fix this.
They can't.
And that is the main problem. Well, they can't because they don't want to as well. Because they're making a profit off of this debt. And they're making a profit off of the trade issues and the immigration issues. They're profiting. They're making deals up there in D.C. They don't care about the rest of us. And they don't want to fix it. They just want to put a pretense up there. And they're going to say, well, we're going to do tax reform, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And, of course, we can see that we've put them in place, and they're not doing a thing that they promised they were going to do. And you and I have been making that well known, and I know Joe knows that. Common sense tells us what they should do, but they're not doing it, and the reason they're not doing it is because they don't want to fix it. That's my...
Well... The reason I talk the way I do is because I have found in my personal life that great improvement is actually possible. So,
I agree.
So I just try to put solutions out there. I try to propose things and get people interested in working for, things that will improve life in all kinds of ways.
And you're not wrong.
Because I have found that improvement is possible. So, hey, what else is worth working for? Okay, good talking to you. Thanks. Bye.
Well, Joe, we weren't saying you were wrong at all.
No,
we're
not at
talking
all.
about D.C. occupiers because they don't want to fix it. We can see the answers, and we can see that we can make improvement. We know that in our personal lives. We know that in our communities. We know that in our states. But they don't want to fix it. That goes back to that old Charlie Reese article, through the 545 versus the 300 and some million people. They create a crisis, they campaign to fix the crisis, and then they don't fix it. They both campaign, as far as both the leading parties, to fix taxes. They both campaign to fix this and to fix that. Well, health care, which didn't need
fixing. They can't even repeal and replace it.
No, they can't.
They should even
because
replace
they don't want to. They don't want to.
No,
They got paid for this. They got paid to do certain things, and they can't renege on it because they made a deal.
Oh, agreed. I mean, everybody. There's always room for improvement. There's always
the American people. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The American people need to understand we're the ones that are being duped. You can blame President Donald Trump all you want. You can even blame President Obama. You can blame any president you want, but it's Congress that stays. Congress is there. How many years has that guy that just quit? How many years has he been there with his sexual harassment and everything else that he's been doing? How many years what's his name? Conyers. How many years has he been there? How many years has Pelosi been there? How many years has Roy Blunt been there? How many years has Connell, Schumer, all of these? How many years have they been in Congress? Not fixing anything.
Nope.
And the debt gets higher and higher and higher. And the prices of health care get higher and higher because they have cut deals with the pharmaceutical businesses. They've cut deals with the insurance companies. And they don't want to fix it because they're getting rich on it. And it doesn't matter about us. That's the whole problem. They don't really care. No. And the American people need to wake up to that. They are D.C. occupiers occupying offices and cutting deals. Not deals to make life better for the American people. Deals to line their little silver slicky pockets. I don't know if that's really a word, silver slick pockets, but
sounds good. It is now. It is now.
It's a Bethism. But, it's just
it's all of these problems that we have. And you're right. And so I would love to, I'd love to see, jobs but the world we live in today, we've opened our doors to China. There's so much competition out there. And there's all kinds. So what brings...
Unfair competition, by the way, because of the deals. Because of the deals. As I hear music. Something else I was going to say is... I forgot what I was going to say, but I'll remember it as we head into this break. But it had to do with what's going on. But the American people have to understand. D.C. occupiers, those elected officials, they don't want to fix it. You need to make those phone calls to them, and you need to tell them, you know what? I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican. You better start working for we the people. I'll give that number when we come back. 717-300-1218 is the number to talk to us, if you dare. 717-300-1218. And Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our Listen and Schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
We have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and the number to call if you want to join us in our crazy Monday conversation is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. What I was going to say is the American people are being deceived, and we keep, like the dog chasing the squirrel, we keep looking to the shiny, to the distractions. You know, just like in The Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. So we're following Russian collusions, email scandals. Not that those aren't important. And now the new, and Melody and I were talking about this before we went on the air, racism. Racism has now taken the place of political correctness. Everything you say or do is racist. I got so angry, and I know he's a big guy, but I'm ready to take him on. Charles Barkley, calling the Roy Moore and Donald Trump and anybody who's a conservative nationalism racist. I can't remember how he put it. They're nationalists. They're white nationalism. That's what he was saying. So if you want to make America great, it's only because you care about white people. You don't care about black people. You don't care about the Asian people that live among us, the Hispanic people that live among us. You only care about white people. Well, to my recollection, every single war this nation has ever been in has had all colors of people fighting. All colors of people fighting. They are the biggest racist of all. And I have no problem telling that to Charles Barkley's face. I might have to step on a stepladder to do it. But he is the biggest racist of all. If he's going to sit there and blame everything on white people. And it just infuriates me, the nastiness that goes on Twitter with even white people talking about wanting to do away with white people. And I'm thinking, are you totally insane? What is going on? So these are all distractions. So you don't see what the D.C. occupiers are doing. And they are all obstructing the president so that he cannot do what he promised to do. And the distractions have gotten to be so ugly. And it's showing what this nation has become. So immoral, so uncaring. All these elected officials that promise they're going to help women, they're going to help the minorities, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they're the biggest criminals in that particular arena of anybody. Chasing after the young interns and pages and such in their offices, and then using taxpayer dollars to pay them off or to fight the lawsuits, and I don't know why the American people can't really see this, and we ought to storm D.C. and kick them all out of our building, because that is our building they're in. It's not theirs. I want to give the switchboard to D.C. It's 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. That's D.C. switchboard. Tell them to get off of their tail ends and get to work. Okay, I'm done now. I know we agree on this. We just don't agree necessarily that it's going to happen. The American people are the only ones who can drain the swamp.
True.
President Donald Trump cannot drain the swamp.
No,
the American people are the only ones who can drain the swamp.
I agree with that. And I think his major job in draining the swamp isn't doing the draining, as you said, it's the people. But exposing.
Yeah, and he has done a good job.
And exposing what is going on. And it's, I'm not. I'd be interested to know what people want America to look like anymore.
That's a good question.
What is America supposed to be? How are we? How do we fit in today's world? You and I mentioned during the break, I don't like the word when I hear Washington doing deals. But, we live in the, since America became a corporation and so forth. Well, do we go back to that? Do we, how do we
unincorporate?
How do we unincorporate? It's easy to say it. It's easy to say, do this, do that. Just like and I still believe this would all be possible if we brought God back.
Yes.
If you made, schools anymore, they don't pledge allegiance. They've taken patriotism out of school. They've taken God out of school. These kids don't know any better. And if you accidentally say something, all of a sudden you're the racist. They preach more racism in schools than they do patriotism.
And something else that's a characteristic of what we've become. These athletes that were picked up for shoplifting in China, and President Donald Trump got them out. And the father is so ungrateful. They don't see the criminals. They don't see the wrong in what these kids did. And they don't see what President Donald Trump, they don't see what he did as anything special. Well, we should have just left him over there.
We should have.
And I'm serious. They are criminals. But they don't see the crime. It was no big deal. They did some shoplifting. My dad used to say, you write a bad check, you might have kept some kid from having dinner that night. He might not have been able to have supper that week. You don't know what you've done. That is stealing, just like anything else. And they take this because they think they deserve it, because ancestors were slaves, possibly. They're getting an education because God has given them this ability to run and jump and play a game, and they think that gives them the right to go into another country and shoplift, steal. The morality is gone, the integrity is gone. That we're such a selfish people, and I don't care what color they are. We have become a selfish people, where we think, well, I deserve that, so let's just go in debt and buy it. I need a new car, so let's just, use that old credit card or run another note at the bank and borrow the money, a little bit more money, and get another car because I deserve it, just like L'Oreal, you're worth it. We've become such a selfish people, and so we want to blame the government for being in debt, but yet we as a people seem to follow that same
right along the program.
Pattern.
Yep. And with that, it allows everything else to work. It allows everything else to work, and it all comes back, yes, I'm going to say it, it all comes back to our money.
To the money.
It comes back to the money.
Or our morality doesn't. That comes back to removing God.
Correct. But so again, it's we're in a place that, and that's the reason why you own gold and silver.
Mm-hmm.
And are we almost out of time?
Almost. Hurry up.
1-800-375-4188. For all your gold and silver coin needs, give us a call at Discount Gold and Silver Trading. We still have that special going on in the 90% silver quarters BU condition, and what a great buy. And it saves you a little cost over your Silver Eagles, so you can get a little more silver for your money. And we received calls over the weekend. I worked Saturday, and I worked a little bit yesterday morning, and received a couple of calls that we're going to call back here in the next couple of hours. So we just needed to get some things going. And 1-800-375-4188. What else do we have near the end of the thing? So lots of problems. You know,
we solved them all. We did. We solved them all. It's just that D.C. occupiers weren't listening. And but again, it is the American people.
We'll talk about the 2017 Congressional Pig Book.
The what?
Pig Book.
Pig, okay.
Pig, P-I-G, government waste.
Oh, the pig book.
Citizens Against Government Waste. Congressional Pig Book Summary. So, you know, that gives out a little bit of a snapshot of some of the projects in the book, and we'll talk about some of those tomorrow and how much it has increased. The earmarks have increased from 2016 to 2017. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So
that's why they're getting rich. That's why they don't want to fix things.
You got it. Part of the problem. Yep.
And the American people are the answer.
Yes.
We really are the only ones who can drain the swamp. And you really do need to keep the DC switchboard on speed dial or on your cell phone. And that is 202-224-3121. I think I've got that. I may have to double check that. You've been listening to Power Talks and Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and we will be back with you tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.